5 days you work, 1 whole day to play. Come on everybody, wear your roller skates today. It's Saturday, 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 it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday,
Saturday with Renee. Yes, welcome everybody back to Black Liberation Media for episode 119 of Uninterrupted Saturdays with Renee, featuring Renee Johnston. I am Jared Ball. Please like, share, subscribe, support the Patreon, put this in your socials. And before I change it over, we are not live. So we may be in the chat, but we're not live. Renee, how you feeling?
It's my fault this time. It's not your fault. It's usually your fault. It's my fault this time because I'm on the road. Whatever's happening right now in life, if I'm in the chat or whatever, I'm in a car on the way to North Carolina, which is unfortunate because I gotta tell you, I was a little sad that I'm gonna miss this event today, which is day after tomorrow, but not today, but today for everybody watching. But still, like, I got the note and I was like, of course it's the weekend that we do our annual trip. But it's all good because we're gonna make up for it with the guest.
With the guest.
So I feel like being in the future with the person that I would have been hanging with had we not been traveling works out for me. And
I mean, Renee, to be fair, you can't be and be doing every single thing, be at and be doing everything. So
I know, because there's actually a big thing happening in Newark tonight in response to what happened in Minneapolis, and it's a PSL event.
Yeah, and
I got a note from Claudia who was like, "Are you coming out?" And I was like, "I'm not, but there's a good reason."
So that's funny you said that because I got the version for Baltimore that's happening as we speak, and I did make it out for that, but we still are in solidarity with those standing up to the terror of ICE and killing of Renee Good. And I think I'm missing one of her names. Forgive me.
I mean, that is her first and last name. I think they say her. I think they use her middle name unless she has two last names, which I'll be honest, I'm not sure about.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So I apologize just in general, but so salute to everybody, standing up and
definitely.
Yeah.
Renee Nicole Good. There you go.
Renee Nicole Good. Thank you very much. Right on. And so salute to them, rest in power to her, and all the things that are inappropriate for YouTube. We just all of the things.
All the things. I know. Yeah.
So,
well, I guess we don't really have to delay too much because I feel like even the stuff that I was contemplating talking about, we should just have our guest on. We can just do the whole flow. There's so much.
All right, so let's go ahead and bring to the stage someone who has been around before and back again, Andre Easton. Welcome back to the show.
What's up, y'all? Happy to be here.
I'm super excited that you were able to come back, and I think the timing was perfect. Because you would have trying to do this on Saturday, had we been able to do a live, I think would not have been possible anyway. Because your day, I think like you're excited for Saturday, but I feel like Saturday at like 11 o'clock, you're going to be looking around like how like what is happening right now, because there's going to be all the things. And so I feel like the universe coalesced in some way to allow us to do it so that we could host you and you could still do your event and they wouldn't interfere with each other. This worked out great.
Yeah, you guys figured out how to time travel. So like right now we in the future, and you know what I'm saying? Got into the matrix.
There we go. But if you one first can let the folks who have not been here previously know who you are, where you're at, what you're doing, and then we can talk a little bit about the event first and go from there.
For sure. So first off, I'm happy to be back. I got invited back. That means I didn't do too bad the first time. So that's wonderful. But my name is Andre. I am a father, a husband, a lifelong Bronx resident. I'm an educator and currently a candidate running for Congress in New York's 15th Congressional District, which represents a good portion of the Bronx, neighborhoods like Mott Haven, all the way up to Riverdale, Wakefield, where I'm from, Baychester. There's the way the district is drawn is really strange, but a lot of really, really wonderful working class people that deserve better representation and access to the political levers that control their lives. And that's really what we're offering here with our with our platform here, with the Andre for the Bronx campaign that we're running right now. So yeah, as Renee mentioned, we have our event coming up on Saturday, and I'm hoping that we get to talk a little bit more about that and just how things have been going so far. So really happy to be here. I'm also a socialist. I should have mentioned that first, right? I think that the the importance of clarity of definitions is more important now than arguably ever, as things are being turned on their heads in terms of their definitions. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Should also say that, which to your point, Renee, allows me to be in multiple places at once and allows me to accomplish 10 times more than I would be able to do as an individual. So yeah, shout out to the party.
That's dope. Did you by chance just show the flyer, Jared?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I was on another tab looking for the flyer so I could drop.
Oh yeah. I showed
See,
it.
look, you had it covered. You didn't look at that. Look at that. You had
Synergy.
you look. I tell Jared all the time, like the part of the reason this whole Saturdays thing works so well is because we have managed to find a way to engage with each other with no pre-planning. Like literally no, like there's no agenda, there's no like even when I do the run sheet, it's just a list of stuff and then I have to be like, Jared, line 14. So look, it all works.
Jared, was that a Professor X reference? With are you channeling your
Yeah,
X?
something like that. Yeah. Like we telepathy, and I can plug into Cerebro and get Renee's messages.
Yeah. You could find all the black revolutionaries in the world, right?
It's a Pan-African Cerebro. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, copyright it.
That's dope. So do you want to talk to folks about the event, let people know, because this is big stuff.
Yeah. I'd be happy to. And if we could pull the flyer back up, I'm really proud of how the flyer came out. I'm happy to have contributed. My face, I guess, is that's the background. I mean, just the colors, the composition, the fonts, all of it. I mean, really a testament to the power of independent working class organizations. The comrades have been working so hard on promotion. But yeah, we're officially launching our campaign on January 10th at the Andrew Friedman home in the Bronx. I would love for as many people that have found value in what we've produced so far in the campaign, whether it be the social media posts or any of the canvassing efforts that we've done so far. We want the people to engage in person in the process of transformation, right? We want everybody to vote, obviously, but really we want to put people in a space together where they can actually strategize and make real the desires that they may have had for themselves and their communities. So yeah, we have a pretty a pretty dope lineup. Some great speakers that are going to be there tomorrow. We will have childcare. Food is there. We've got some DJs that are going to be, dropping some tunes. So it's going to be a really, exciting, lively event. And I think, one, the Bronx needs it, and we're really deserving of a space where people can come and actually voice and give manifestation to the desires that they have for themselves, and again their community. So it's a really great opportunity to make real all the things we've been working on so far.
Dope, dope,
Yeah,
dope.
definitely right on. Yeah, I was trying to find a cleaner way of showing it, but without blocking the guests. But yeah. And
do you want to talk about the multiple languages that you have covered on the flyer? Because I feel like that's something that would be easily missed, that should not be missed.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really an acknowledgement of just the diversity that exists within the Bronx. We've got Arabic, Spanish, French, and we've, where we want people to see themselves in this movement, as part of this campaign, and not just as bystanders or waiting for someone else to, you know, hopefully capitalize or make real on the things that they think should happen. So we want everybody to feel as a part of it. And again, as I mentioned, childcare will be there. My boys will be there. I got a couple of families that are going to be out there, so it's going to be a great event for all people. There'll be activities for people to engage in. We got some poster making activities. Again, we want people to engage in all of our productive capacities, our creative energies, and put them towards something that we believe in. So it's a great opportunity for that.
That's dope. Jared, I dropped the Eventbrite registration link in our chat. So at some point, I don't I'm pushing the buttons, but
I'll make sure it's in the show description.
Yeah, there we go. And so that way folks can, and if I am indeed not driving in the future when this is playing on the channel, I will also drop it in the chat, but only if I'm not driving, because obviously if I'm driving, I shouldn't be participating in the chat.
Obeying all local laws.
So can we talk a little bit about the organizational strategy? We talked about this a lot when you came on the last time, and I have been, because I get on my doom scroll sometimes and be lost in Instagram for a while. But you're now in my feed, which is fun, because I'll be scrolling and then you'll pop up with wherever you were when you were talking to folks. And I always find I just your energy. I appreciate it. Your energy comes across in a way that I don't even know if you understand how you come across to people. And I'm so excited to see someone like you engage in this process. But can you talk about at this point, so you all are launching, you're doing your official launch, and so what's the next thing? How is this going to work for your campaign, that type of stuff?
Yeah, well, so we're going to continue to hold. So last time when we met, the first show that we had together, that was the launch of that was November. Crazy, wow.
I know, wild.
Yeah, that was so we had a 3-part volunteer series where we were engaging our neighbors in the Bronx and just really putting our platform in the hands of the people. Our 3 main points: lower the rent, raise the wages, strong schools, safe streets, end all U.S. aid to Israel, right? We got a chance to really talk about what these platforms mean and what it looks like for people to really what these plans could look like in practice. Clean Air for All was the last one that we did, which was in December. So we did 3 weeks in 3 Saturdays in November, and then we did 2 Saturdays in December. And we've been preparing for this event on the 10th, which is Saturday, and then we'll have another series of events where we can continue to engage the public. I think the face-to-face in-person engagement is super, super critical. I think there are things that cannot really be translated effectively over the screen, and people need to know in real life that this is a thing that is tangible, right? Like, because especially in the era that we're in right now, where it's so easy to astroturf something, right? Where something can appear to be extremely large, extremely vibrant on the internet, but the real life, existence of that thing does not meet that expectation. Like, for example, in the comment section, which I don't go in, I shouldn't go into. I'm not gonna say I don't, because I'd be doom scrolling like you too, Renee. I'm not gonna hold you. But the comment section is not necessarily a indicator of what public sentiment is like, right? Because we know there are all sorts of mechanisms where you have bot farms, there are people who are paid to go and drop comments in certain areas, and I think we've been the victim of that. I have to say that there's no other way that I can explain how one post got 3,000 comments like in a matter of hours, right? And like overwhelmingly negative, right? So in the online space, it's difficult to get a sense of just how large or how powerful or how um, popular a particular moment or movement is. And in person, in face-to-face interactions, there's no mistaking what something means or how it feels or how people are receiving it, and you can feel each other's energy. So so much of what makes this platform vibrant is that we are intentionally putting our feet on the ground in the communities that are underserved, that are overlooked and counted out for their participation in all aspects of political life. So we've done some canvassing sessions in various neighborhoods in the district. We were in Highbridge houses. I myself went to the Gun Hill houses. um, we've been on Grand Concourse. I mean, and we have so many more sessions that we're going to plan and continue to build relationships with these communities. And everybody's so happy to have somebody who represents an elected position or is campaigning for a position that actually sits and spends time talking to them and just listening to their concerns and like putting their platform in their hands for people to actually you know uh, conceptualize and respond to. So so much of what we're doing has to be on the ground, and I'm really happy that I get an opportunity to talk to people about what they want to see, and just learn all the different things that they're already doing that don't get enough acknowledgement.
Dope. Is there it's gonna sound like a random question, but I'm just this is my own curiosity. Is there a type of conversation that you most enjoy having when you encounter people as you're doing this? Because one of the clips I saw, you were talking to an elder lady about voting. I don't know which island she was from. I always want to say Jamaica because that's just my tendency. But you ended up having this conversation about socialism, and I was thinking to myself, he does really well at like explaining these things, which is making me think, Jared, when we do this socialist reconstruction, like go back, we should try and figure out a way to do it so Andre can be involved. Maybe we can like pre-record them or something, and then I don't know. I'm look there I go signing you up for stuff. But
I think in a few guests would be a good idea for that.
Yeah,
and Andre would be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So and anywho, so is there like a conversation as you're doing these engagements that you find that you're either having all the time, or that you wish you were having more but you're not having enough of, or that you enjoy so much that you always find yourself navigating towards that type of conversation when you're engaging with folks?
Oh yeah, for sure. I genuinely love talking about socialism, right? I think it's something that is so mystified and I think deliberately obscured. Um, so that woman, we met her outside of our third volunteer meeting where she was actually live streaming because she was coming out to do some work in the community. She was, I think, giving food, or she works with like homeless services in that community. And she came up to us and she was alive, and she was like, can I talk to you? Like, tell me about what's going on. And then, like, what you saw was like, just our organic conversation. But I love the fact that people are able to ask those types of questions, because we're under the constant onslaught of the type of technological society that we're in, where the ruling class, the billionaires, are able to give us these apps, and they're able to use the algorithms to push out narratives and stories that frame the world in a way that prevent people from properly assessing how the world exists, how it was constructed, and what their role in uh, either maintaining or dismantling the world as it currently sits is. And I think that the best thing that we can do is to be, as public educators, as popular educators, able to sit and talk to anybody in the simplest terms about, one, the problems that they're facing, and two, the source of those problems, and also to, in the most accessible way, explain what the solutions to those things are. Now, people don't change their mind in one conversation, but the seeds have to be planted. And I say this all the time as an educator, right? Like, we don't get to decide which seeds we plant will actually grow and germinate, but we're not absolved of our responsibility to plant them, right? So we have to continue to make sure that we're putting these ideas into the public space for people to wrestle with, for people to contend with. And we have to do it in honest and in clear ways, because the enemy of our future, the enemy of our planet, is rapidly and with the greatest sophistication, putting out ideas that are counter to the development of our people and the development of our consciousness. I think Black capitalism is a popular one. I think some of the ways that cultural nationalism are being weaponized is working to the detriment of our, obtaining a proper assessment of what's happening, what are the forces at play. And there's so many right-wing narratives that are, actively misleading and misguiding people into believing that either they are not capable or should not participate in the struggle for transformation or for liberation, or that the process is beyond saving, that people do not have the capacity to change the course of society. And we, as revolutionary optimists, reject that out of necessity, because we have to see things as clearly as they are and work in the most politically expedient ways. So the conversations where I get to talk about how the problems exist beyond Donald Trump, when I get to talk about why socialism is actually something that we should not be afraid of, but something that, one, speaks to our history as African people, right? As a collective people, it speaks to the values of Ubuntu, right? That, speak about the collective well-being and the shared destiny, but also why we have to debunk and dismantle these ideas that are, reactionary, that are individualistic, that says that, instead of trying to destroy the oppressor or the system of oppression, try to find a better position within that existing system, right? Even if other people have to suffer, you can work your way out, you can hustle, you can grind, you can walk between the raindrops. Those are the things that are preventing our people from engaging in the actual transformative ideas that exist within socialism, that exist within Marxism, that exist within the Black radical tradition. We have to give people entryways. We have to give people on ramps for them to see themselves as political actors. And again, that's what I think that our campaign is really strong at, and that's my favorite aspect about it. I'm a teacher by profession, so I talk a lot. So I'm gonna pause right there.
No, kind of following off of the socialist reconstruction book idea. One of the things that makes the book so compelling is it's, to me, it's a very practical guide of how to take the world we're in now, apply socialist principles and start to make leaps and bounds towards a better world. It's so it does a lot of what I know I've been looking for a long time, is something that helps make those, how do we take these ideas into this world as it is now and use them to make amendments. And in that vein, I'm wondering, so when you get elected, how does the currently existed political structure, the currently arranged, established political structure, specifically, obviously, of New York City and the Bronx, how does that allow you or not to enact socialist principles and ideas that would begin to make the changes you want, that you're running on, for instance? Like, how could you just talk to us, for those of us not familiar with the Bronx or the specifics of that area, or anywhere for that matter, what in that elected capacity could you do to advance socialism?
Yes, thank you. I think that's a really good question. Um, District District 15 in the Bronx, it's often referred to as the poorest congressional district, and we've been actively trying to cancel that narrative by rephrasing it as the most exploited district in the nation, in that the exploitation has a root and has a cause, and that cause can be addressed as names, addresses, and these are not abstract ideas. These are things that regular everyday people are able to comprehend and make, they immediately understand. I think part of the challenge with I think in New York City in general, and I think this is also common for a lot of majority Black cities in the country, where there's a strong Democratic footprint, Democratic Party footprint. So many of the efforts that would be beneficial for the working class are often under the management and the direction of nonprofit uh, organizations. And in as part of the deal with the nonprofits, there are certain boundaries that nonprofits have to operate within, that prevent them from addressing the root cause of the issues that the programs and the organizations are ostensibly meant to solve. So, where in the Bronx there's a strong tradition of tenant organizing and tenants' rights, a lot of the rent strikes and the rental. Um, the rental movement for workers has a strong history in the Bronx, and the nonprofit um, industry has taken a lot of these fighters that are working class fighters that would otherwise be revolutionaries. They would be socialists, they would be Marxists, they would be communists, but they have been offered the opportunity to advance their work under the guise that they maintain their operations within the scope of the two-party system. And in where I live in the Bronx, it's really a one-party system, right? Yeah, the Republicans operate and they campaign, but they don't really have a foothold in any meaningful way anywhere in the Bronx. Maybe a few pockets here and there, but overall, the Democrats are the stewards over the conditions that the Black, Latino, Yemeni, uh, Palestinian, working masses have to deal with. So part of the challenge that we face is trying to compete against the Democrat stronghold. Like Richie Torres, who we're going up against, has about $15 million, in his campaign budgets, where he can pay for ads so that any channel you turn on TV, you'll get ads, you'll get mailers, turn the radio on, and he's going to be advertising himself. So that's a major challenge. I think within that, so much of our campaign is meant to highlight the contradictions that exist within the political apparatus as it exists, more broadly. So, for instance, recently there was this the incident that happened in Minnesota, right? It's got more people mobilizing and registering their frustration and their anger and their rage at this system of ICE, which has been kidnapping and brutalizing people for since 2003. The challenge in trying to rectify that is that in engaging in this, in the theater of this political apparatus, is that in advocating for something that could be really beneficial, oftentimes attached to that beneficial bill will be something that is counter to the interests of the people that you're meant to serve for. So you're forced with an option to push forward a bill that has some of the things that you want while also giving support for the things that will hurt your community at the same time, right? So over the summer there was a bill that was voted on where I think it was denouncing, acts of anti-Semitism on the surface, and attached to that bill was the acknowledgement or uh, um, expressing gratitude for ICE, right? So on the surface, the bill appears to be something that is, trying to protect the lives of, Jewish New Yorkers or Jewish Americans. On the underside of it is expressing appreciation for ICE, right? So how does one navigate a space where if you want to do something good for one community, you're also throwing immigrants under the bus, right? So you have to forsake one for the other. And I think that is the nature of how the system is constructed, in a way that on the surface it seems democratic, but when you peek under the hood, you recognize that it is counter to the interests of the broader people, and it serves the interests of the ruling class. And I think these are the things that we want to advocate and to raise to the consciousness of the workers, not only in the Bronx, but around the country, in that there is a intentional limitation placed on what types of things can be accomplished within this electoral system. That being said, there are several tangible things that can be done within the electoral arena that would advance the material conditions for the working class in this district and around the country. Specifically speaking about housing, right? We're seeing recently, Zoran Mamdani was able to push forth a um, initiative that seeks to investigate the rental ripoff, as he was referring to, of tenants throughout the city, and like really exposing the conditions. So we recognize that things that are on the books that could be expanded. So for example, talking about overturning the Faircloth Act, right? Repealing the Faircloth Act, which would enable us to build more public housing, dignified public housing, updated public housing, for the people, the millions of people in the city who would benefit from that. But also acknowledging that there's an existing backlog, anywhere between 40 billion and $75 billion needed to make the necessary repairs to update the existing public housing infrastructure to a point that the quality of life would be improved for the people that live there. So there are things that can be done, but there is not a political will for those things to be activated, because the billionaire lobbies that are funding the campaigns and allowing people like Richie Torres to remain in office and to have the money to run consecutive campaigns, it necessitates that you are constantly fundraising and having the support of a billionaire that could write you a check or provide you with the money that you would need to campaign, versus having to get that money $20 at a time like we're doing. It facilitates the very structure of the political apparatus, facilitates a move towards corruption, right? If you want to remain in that position, you have to secure funding, and the people with funding are the people that are benefiting from the existing status quo, which sees increasing numbers of working people suffering.
Well, I just learned about something, and I want to apologize on behalf of our host here, who hails currently from Newark and has not encouraged you, as far as I'm aware, to do what Newark did in having one of its famous celebrities come back and build public housing. Where I read recently that a couple of years ago, Queen Latifah built 16 out of 76 new units were to be slated for affordable housing. Why don't you, hailing from the Bronx of all the places with all the celebrities, and just ignore all this socialist nonsense and get them to come back and build a whole bunch of 16 out of 76 public affordable housing units all throughout the Bronx?
Wait,
you're welcome. And Renee, I've apologized for you. So,
well, you know, I'm from Brooklyn, so you don't need to.
Well, I think currently from Newark, hailing from Newark.
But is
so they get Jay-Z.
Wait, is it 16 units as in apartments within a building, or 16 buildings? Because there's a
I'm not entirely sure
difference in that.
The word unit, this was something I just got sent the other day, and I think it was built in 2023. And I'm not sure if they are apartments in one building or if they are small row homes, townhomes, or whatever scattered throughout. But the only thing I am sure of is that only 16 of the 76 are slated for public housing, and the rest are market rate. So
I think you kind of let the cat out of the bag a little early, because I was just about to explain why we need to buy the block. You know what I mean? We need to buy back the block. You get what I'm saying? Reinvest in our hood. You get what I'm saying? Circulate the black dollar, right? Once we circulate that, I give you $1, you give $1 to Renee, Renee gives me $1. Now
we're rich.
I have $1 and I still can spend that dollar again, and we'll just keep circulating it. And together we'll have $1 or 33 cents if we split it evenly. But yeah, you know, it's, I think the limitation is largely the profit motive, right? Doing the things that would be necessary, investing in the infrastructure that would make transportation affordable and more feasible, even within the borough of the Bronx. It's not profitable. There's no incentive for people to improve conditions beyond where they are. In fact, there's actually an incentive to increase the suffering so that people become more desperate and willing to pay higher prices for less services. So in fact, the opposite is true when it comes to profit. So, you know, improving people's conditions does not net you a positive profit or a return on your investment, to use the language of the Robert Kiyosaki's and such.
All the geniuses. Yeah, this is Renee. You sent this is more or less what I thought I saw. So let's see. The project includes 23 family townhomes and a 3-story mixed-use building with an additional 16 units. The current design concept includes a fitness center, commercial space, 60 units in the townhouses will be set at market rates, and the 16 units in the building will be set aside for affordable housing.
Crazy.
$14 million. So,
and I just want to note that there's, you know, for the people that are able to be tracked, right? There are thousands of houseless people in Newark, just in Newark. So although I appreciate the effort of 14 townhomes, that even when you say like it's affordable, if it's a townhome, it's not that affordable, no matter how hard you try, right? Unless she's like, if she was going to build 20 units and say, I'm giving 14 of these units to 14 families that I can figure out, you know, just need a place to live, right? And then I'll sell the other 4 to try and recoup some of the money, because she don't need 40 minutes. Like if she's able to spend that to build housing, like you don't need the money, right? Like she could give all 20 of those houses away, and that would be at least helpful to the 20 people who now have somewhere to live.
And I'm curious to know what percentage is Queen Latifah contributing to the broader project that goes into the development of these homes, right? Like, we saw how, Jay-Z puts his name on like the Barclays deal, right? He would have like maybe 2% of like a portion of one deal, and then he gets to put his name on the Barclays Center. And recently ASAP Rocky did a thing where I think he paid the rent for, I think people that lived in his community. But then when you actually click the article and you read through it, you see that he partnered with some like investment group and some hedge fund, and they were carrying the majority of the burden for these costs, and his name gets to be attached to it. So it's like this is a common behavior, a common practice where people attach their celebrity or their name to a project that in practice they contributed very little to, because run again, uh, black people don't really have money, unfortunately, right? The richest black people don't really have money. We have, rich black people have a higher ability to consume, but they don't really have the money that would be needed to actually foreground the type of developments that they are often associated with. I think Meek Mill did something like that recently. Him and Kevin Hart, they gave like scholarships out to like kids in Philly, and then like you find out, I think it was like Mark Cuban or some other NFL owner like fronted the majority of the money, and like they just put their name on it, and like most of the money went for scholarships to like private schools that kind of most people in Philadelphia are going to public schools. Most black people in Philadelphia are in public schools. So that money could have, been used in a lot of different ways. But again, the media, the narratives are able to create these types of ideas of benevolence, which again legitimize capitalism, right? Because they tell young poor people that if you get enough money, you can give back to the hood like that. You can come and give turkey giveaways. How does the quote go? Scattered success breeds universal hope.
Universal hope.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that whole idea is I mean, there's so many examples, and it's effective because it's hard to argue with somebody that has a direct experience. Like, well, they gave me toys. Like I was there when they were handing out turkeys or, handing out food. And so people have a visceral connection to that. But I think that what it really does is it infantilizes poor people, right? It infantilizes working class people because it says that you should wait around for somebody to come and save you. You should wait around for some really nice rich person to come and break you off with a couple pennies that they're going to write off on their taxes and actually secure their wealth and increase for the next year, which they'll give you less because they will have made more. So whatever they give you will be a smaller percentage of their larger income. But
and meanwhile, you got to pay taxes on that house you just got too.
Okay. That's the part. That was the part that I was going to say. Like, even if Queen Latifah was able to give out the houses, like property taxes, how many black people are losing the access to their deeds, having their deeds stolen from them because they're not able to pay the taxes on properties that their grandparents bought, right? Properties that have been owned in their family for generations are being stolen from them because they don't have the ability to maintain or even just maintaining the house in general. Like being a homeowner, every winter something's gonna break, right? Light bulbs go out, electricity.
How about that roof, Renee?
Okay. So like, I think the point that I want to continue to stress and emphasize is that until oppressed people overturn the system and the condition that places them in a colonial relationship to the ruling class, then the dreams and the hopes and the aspirations that they have for themselves, for their children, for their communities, for their neighbors cannot be realized until we overturn the original sin of colonialism that changed this land from Turtle Island into the United States of America. Until we overturn that original sin, all of our efforts will not bear the fruit that they have the potential to bear until that first condition is satisfied. That first original sin was satisfied.
It's wild stuff, man. But go ahead, Jared.
I was just going to say, I would prefer that Latifah did what you suggested, Renee, or donate $1 million to 14 different Andre Easton style campaigns, and raise the contradiction of saying, why am I necessary as a semi-rich person to deal with the housing of my community? Like, I mean, if you're all praising me for 14 million, what is the budget of Newark, of New Jersey? of the federal government. Why are we? But yeah.
And so, because you know how I get with stuff like this, I started poking around because I'm like, so is this place like real? Does it exist? Because they were breaking ground in 2022 when that when that article came out. Now the funny part is when you look up Rise Living, which is what this complex is, because what she did was she put money towards building 16 units within a 76 unit apartment complex. So it's not even like I can't even tell if it's townhomes, if it's like, are there 16 townhomes within this complex? And it's very, very difficult to understand. Now I will say, funny enough, and we can y'all can join me on this one, because I'm like, wait, are we for real? Like, this is for real what we're talking about right now? If I'm following this correctly, right? They built this complex. She put in the money for a certain number of units. But when you look up Rise Living, we're gonna do this journey together, y'all. I just dropped it in the chat. This is what you get to see, because if only 16 of these units are affordable living and the rest of it is not, like, what are we? But go on. Let's take a look.
Why can't I get the audio to play?
Oh, I don't know. Uh-oh. Did I send a bad link?
No, I don't know. I mean, the Instagram comes up, but I can't get it to.
Well, I don't know if we really need to listen to her.
Go off mute.
It says, just so we're clear, it's luxury apartments in which 16 units are. But like, I want to know what affordable is. That's what I want to know, what affordable is when you say like this is affordable. Whoops. This is affordable housing. Like what is that? What does that mean?
And how long do those units have to be slated for affordable housing? Right. Like, because I know they have expirations where you can rent it out as affordable for 5 years, or sometimes you can break that lease and rent them at market rate, which every capitalist would love to do. Like, why would I accept?
Yeah, I think I did see something that there was like a 5 or 6 year. There's some kind of. I think you're right that there is something that is not permanent about it. But I don't know. Is this supposed to be one of the affordable units?
It says luxury, so I don't think so. I don't think so. The design included a fitness center and commercial space, and something about.
And they got dual sinks. I'm jealous of that.
I know, right?
I just feel like people do this, so there's all this hype because she's part of this $14 million housing project. But when I tell you, I just spent a good little chunk of time trying to find some real information on this, this apartment unit. Like, what does it cost? What is, and one, there's no availability according to this.
I mean, there's only 16 units.
This is the thing. It's 70 something units, and only 16 of the units are affordable housing of the 70 something units.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, there's so many poor people vying for those 16, I'm sure.
Right. And so, the images that you see here, I can drop in the apartment finder link that I also came across.
Have you seen where the actual rental fees are? Like, what does it cost for like a studio or one bedroom? Has that been
so that's what's in this apartment finder.
I was just looking at that. Yeah.
Right. So, you have like small fees, but there's no, like, I can't find a real amount.
1,800 for a studio
in New Jersey,
in
Bloomfield.
Newark, Newark is. But I mean, if you are looking for affordable housing for a family, this can't be it, right?
No.
2,800 for 2 bedrooms, 2,000 for 1 bedroom. That can't be it. And whoa, what is this the same thing?
I think
2,600 for a studio?
I think those are similar units in the area. So I guess that's like what the going rate is for
Oh.
housing in that area. Yeah. So I saw that earlier and I was like, wait, but even still, like, what does someone need to make a year, an hour, to be able to afford an
that, right?
affordable housing, right? And then how long will someone be able to make that? Because even working for Amazon or any of these jobs that people say are accessible, what is the longevity? What is the length of career that of any of these the type of employment that somebody would be going
Right.
to that
And
can,
just saying, like,
live
I
in
did a
there?
little research on Amazon, and I feel like we talked about this on the show a few weeks ago, Jared, that their turnover is like 150%. So
Sure.
they literally, like, it's literally like rolling over their entire employee and a half over time. Like, they just keep hiring new people. Like, the minute people start complaining about the fact that they have to pee in a bottle, they just start hiring people who don't mind peeing in a bottle for 6 months. So
Or if you spend 30 seconds more on your, your monitored lunch break or
right,
bathroom break,
right,
all of that adds up. And the thing is, I had a friend of mine, a comrade, who worked for Amazon for a little bit. And anybody that I know that ever works for Amazon, like, they just disappear, like they fall off the map. Like, you can't reach them because the hours that they work is so crazy that you're not awake at the same time that they're awake, right? They just the Amazon entices you with the amount of hours that you're able to work, but you can't sustain yourself and reproduce yourself as a social being while working the hours that would be
right,
necessary to feed yourself and to sustain yourself,
right.
at Amazon.
Right. And the other crazy thing that Amazon does is, because, they're trying their best to not have to really take care of their people, they have all of these like outside contractual things, right? So you can deliver for Amazon without being an
Hmm.
Amazon driver, right? Which is why now you have people like rolling up in front of your house with rental vans and
Yes,
dropping off packages. And that's all an effort by Amazon to not have to commit to its workforce. Because if you're
exactly.
paying somebody to just drive packages around, you don't have to train them, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to pay for
Absolutely.
their health care. If they get hurt, that's their problem with their insurance company. Like, it is the wildest setup ever.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. And like
as you go ahead. No, go ahead.
the contractors, they'll drive Amazon trucks, right? Like, you'll see the Amazon truck and you're like, oh wow, it's an Amazon is coming here. But then, like, you see on the side, it'll be like Lopez, trucking, or Lopez delivery, or
Right,
like, so these
right,
are small businesses that are being contracted by Amazon, and assuming all of the liability for not only themselves as the owner of the business, but the people that work for them and
right.
the quality of their lives. And Amazon is like, Kiki Palmer. They're like, oh, we didn't know a thing, right? Who is this man? Never seen a day in my life. You get what I'm saying? So they
Not Kiki
maintain,
Palmer.
right? So they're getting their branding out. They're getting their packages delivered. People are thinking positively of Amazon as the company. Meanwhile, the workers that are making it possible for Amazon to have this reputation, that are delivering these packages in just inconceivably fast, short times, the ones that are making this company profitable are not reaping that benefit, because Amazon has set up an arrangement that you don't even work for them. Like, I literally, my name isn't on your paycheck. You're driving a truck, you're wearing my uniform, but like, understand,
Right,
we not Facebook official. Like, this is a
right,
situationship at best, right?
right,
I don't
right,
know your name.
right. It's wild. It's really, I mean,
That's messed up. You the employee, the labor side piece.
Okay,
That's messed up. You
okay, you know what I'm
that's a
saying? A
listen, it's a
late night
wild way to put it,
situation.
but it's not wrong. It's
yeah.
not wrong. And that's, like, when you really consider the type of hole you get pulled into if you're trying to just get by and you're like, oh, well, you know what? I can drive for Amazon and I can make this money driving for Amazon. And then people don't really consider all of the ramifications that come along with that because they're trying to survive. They're trying to figure out, like, how do I best get into a situation where I can pay this rent at this low income housing, right? Like
that I needed a rapper turned actor to buy me.
Right. That part. And you're right, Andre, like this low income housing, the things that they require for you to qualify for it is ridiculous. I remember when they shut down Kingsbrook Hospital in Brooklyn. And the reason they were shutting down Kingsbrook Hospital is because it got bought by some company that was going to turn it into affordable housing. And when you read the documents, you had to be making like $75,000 a year to qualify for the affordable housing. Like, in what world? Like, in Brooklyn? Like, what are we talking about right now?
They meant affordable for the people we actually want to live near. So if it's affordable for people who can afford it, and it's that old, if you have to ask, how much it is, you can't afford it.
Right.
So that's what they meant. Affordable to the people who don't have to ask any questions.
So now that we've all joined me down my lane of falling down a rabbit hole, like minutely, I couldn't help myself. I was like, I need to know more about this housing. But so actually, this is something where it may seem that you align a little bit with what Mamdani's doing, right? He's signed these executive orders, which, it's interesting to watch like all these things happening in real time. And one of my issues that I had with Mamdani's campaign, and that I still continue to have, and of course it's one of his executive orders, is that he wants to build housing. And for the life of me, I do not understand why in a city that has as many empty apartment buildings as it has, why we are building housing. So I don't know how many people recognize that two of the executive orders, it's number 4 and 5, are about this building of new housing, right? But they're talking about eminent domain, right? Like they're talking about taking over spaces that the city, quote unquote, owns and using these spaces to build houses. So I'm like, well, what's there? Like, what are you about to take away from a neighborhood because the city, quote unquote, owns it to build housing? What is happening right now? But on the surface, if people look at your campaign and look at what Mamdani is doing, they would say, well, look, like he's a socialist, Mamdani's a socialist, they're both trying to do housing, like, this could work. And this is not to say that it couldn't work, right? Like, I'm not on board with building, but that said, like, listen, if he's going to be able to house people, I feel like I would be an idiot to be like, no, don't give people somewhere to live. Like, I'm not trying to go down that path. I just think there's probably a better way to do it. But this leads to the question of how does this local versus federal, right? Like, how do these things merge in some ways? You kind of answered some of this question, but I'm thinking like specifically with the housing, right? Like, is Mamdani's policies and some of his executive orders that he's looking to do, are these some things that you could capitalize on or utilize within your campaign and utilize, there go the dog, sorry, or utilize, when you win? Like, are these things that you could use to help actually improve the material conditions of the people within your district?
Yeah, I think, thank you. I think it's a great question. And I hope that we can talk more about it. I think as a Marxist, we don't get to choose the conditions that we struggle under. And we obviously want to struggle under the best conditions possible. And I think that if there are maneuvers, if there are policies, if there are efforts that Zoran Mamdani engages in that enable us to push for material improvements for the workers in the Bronx and District 15, then that's ultimately a good thing. I think that the way that the the electoral process is discussed and operates in this country, there's like a when I was in Jamaica, I was reading the Horace Campbell's book, Rasta and Resistance, and I was exposed to this term called leaderism, right? Where people feel such loyalty, like an undying loyalty to an individual leader, like an elected official, like Michael Manley or now Andrew Holness, right? People, you walk around the streets and see people wearing a jersey, like a soccer jersey with a big, like huge Andrew Holness's face on it, right? And I think that there are aspects of that that are encouraged within the American political system where people are so enamored with the idea of what a person is and how good this individual person is. And they put a lot of stock in this individual being able to operationalize or make real the desires that we all have for the world that we think we should live in. And I think the problem with that is that it puts this person in a space of an unrealistic sense on both sides. Like, uh, to some extent, there's nothing that this person could do that would satisfy everybody's aspirations because your aspirations live inside of your head. And if you're a human being, those aspirations are constantly shifting and changing. So to expect an external person to manifest the things that are inside your head that haven't been expressed is impossible. So on one end, it's impossible to meet up with the expectation that you have inside your head, but on the other part, it it has a demobilizing effect in that it absolves you from engaging in the work from the vantage point that you exist at to actually make those ideas a reality, right? So, we saw this with Barack Obama as well, where people felt, rightfully so, that his election would transform the world and, cure cancer and all the things that we wanted to change. We believe that by us engaging in the process of casting a ballot would produce the changes that we think and we deserve and we need and desire. So I think that we're witnessing some of that with Zoran Mamdani. So I think that, we should approach it, uh, I guess, to borrow some of what Jared talks about, like how we should engage in the political practice from a cold, calculated way, right? Like we should show up with our objectives in mind and go there to get what we came for, and not actually expect these people to exist in a state where they are above critique, where they are above. They're above human, right? Like we worship them. So I think that we should view Mamdani as a mayor of a American city, and we should hold him accountable to what is possible for mayors of American cities, while also working daily to build the apparatus that could actually create the conditions for the transformations that we deserve. So yes, you can celebrate when Mamdani enacts a policy that has some form of material benefit for the working class. Yes, we can be critical when we see Mamdani ultimately capitulate in ways that we wish he did not. But I think that neither of those actions should absolve us from doing the daily work of meeting with our neighbors, of going to organizing meetings, of sitting and talking to people that we don't necessarily agree with 100%, and finding points of commonality, points of common interest in ways that we can both become stronger through our unity and our connections with each other, and deepen our commitment to our communities. I think that's what we have to do. And I think that when these figures are cast upon us, it discourages us from doing the internal work, the necessary work, the nitty gritty work that actually made Zoran Mamdani possible in the first place, right? It was the constant organizing agitation for Palestine that made Zoran possible. And I think if we lose sight of that and we think that this is a gift that came to us from on high, then we'll just continue to wait around for the next gift, as opposed to transforming ourselves and our relationship to each other and the broader political levers that we have access to in our workplace, in our communities, in our homes, in our families. There's so much things that we could do that we aren't doing because we are waiting for somebody with a magic wand, waiting for a messiah to come and save us. So I think that we should look for what is possible and hold his feet to the fire to an extent, in the mass movement, by continuing to organize and continue to apply pressure to whatever extent possible. But don't allow all of our hopes and dreams to exist within the confines of the two-party system, because that could never actually materialize. It cannot and it will not. And that energy will be captured and used for the most reactionary version of whatever your aspirations are. They will take your desire for public housing and they'll give you 16 affordable housing units in out of 76 units, right? They'll take all of your desires and reframe them and recapture them and repackage them. They'll fund the police, right? These are the things that the apparatus does. And because we know what they do, we have to be more committed to building these in-person connections and building the organizing network that is going to be necessary, and regardless of who is in charge or not, right? Our survival is going to greatly depend on the degree and the level of commitment that we have to organized struggle.
So for the person who's like, what does that mean? Because, there's somebody like, well, what does that mean? This is what I take from that, right? You are going to watch what Mamdani does based on these policies, these executive orders, whatever. Your role as the representative in Congress for the 15th district of the Bronx is to do what you can to ensure that the people of the Bronx are not reliant upon the words or the executive orders of someone like Mamdani, because he is still part of the system in which we are trying to break. Did I get that right?
Yes. So yes, I think, yeah, in short, we have to be committed to making our development independent of any administration. I think if we rely on one administration to give us the tools or the freedom to do what we think is right, then we're just setting ourselves up to be stunted in the broader sense of what we're able to accomplish.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, your energy. I'm like, let's go. I want you to win so bad just so I can be like, look. Because I feel like in my heart, I feel like you're not going to be the person who goes there. We're like, God damn it. Like, I thought you was going to do this thing. Like, I trust that you're not going to be that person. So, like, I can't even say enough how much I want to see this all play out in a way that teaches people that you can actually stand for the thing that's really about the people and talk to the people and educate the people and then actually represent the people that you're sent there to represent versus whatever thing that happens when these people get sucked into this system. Because it's some wild, like I made Jared, so the other Jared, he likes to say the better Jared. I'm going to say the other Jared, Ware from Millennials of Killing Capitalism, recommended that I watch a documentary called The Lobby, which I had never heard of, right? And it turns out that it's this 4-part series. So for folks who are on Patreon, just know that next week on Friday, so this is 2 days from today, so Saturday, so this upcoming Friday, not tomorrow for us, but tomorrow, next Friday upcoming for y'all when you're watching this, right? We are going to engage in a conversation on our Patreon with Jared Ware and Lara Shehi, my girl, and we are going to talk about the Israeli lobby. And this has been this documentary was very, very eye-opening for me because I don't even think I fully understood how this lobbying actually, like I have a basic understanding of how lobbying works, right? Like I know that people get into Congress and the first thing that they're told to do is make their calls to make back whatever money they got donated to them, and that the goal is to continue to make the money. And Richie Torres is actually a perfect example because he takes so much money from the AIPAC lobby and he takes so much money from millionaires and billionaires that he is totally co-opted, right? And so this documentary was very eye-opening for me. Now, I happen to also be reading right now The Palestine Laboratory, which is totally coincidental that I'm reading that book while watching this documentary and how much of it actually plays together when you realize how in bed together all of these governments are, right? Like, it's wild. Like, my mind is totally blown listening to this book. And so I go into all of this to get people to understand that the reason I am so excited about Andre is because he is not going to be that person, right? Like when you watch this documentary and you see that they're giving envelopes with 40 different credit cards with $1,000 each to people in Congress so that they can fake like they did not just hand that person $40,000, which you do when you give somebody 40 credit cards that are worth $1,000 each, right? Like you literally just gave that person $40,000. Like these are the things that have created this system in which we are living where nobody can get anywhere because all the people who are supposed to be helping you to improve your material conditions to get where you need to go, they're all too busy working for the people who can give them an envelope full of credit cards. Like it is the wildest thing I've ever seen. And I really, if you could talk a little bit about how important it's going to be for you, and I'm putting you on the spot, heads up, how important it's going to be for you to maintain your integrity as you like engage in this process. Because I think really for the most part, that's like my core guess on it is that's the problem. Like you get into a space where you are just not strong enough to be like, listen, if this ends my political career because I hold on to my integrity, I'm okay with that, right? And I think most people are unwilling to do that. They get into the space and they get co-opted. They get excited by the idea that they got the seat and the power, and now all these people want to talk to them. They're going to be able to write a book and blah, 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 blah. And then all this stuff that you were like excited about just like it like disappears in a puff of smoke, right? So can you talk about that a little bit if you don't mind?
Yeah, no, I think that's a beautiful question, and I look forward to. I might have to stream it. Is it on? I might have to catch it on bootleg or
No,
something.
it's on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah, man. Listen, there's a whole thing because it is
oh,
an
I see
Al
it's on the
yeah.
Electronic Intifada has it on there.
Yes, and it was an
Okay.
Al Jazeera 4-part series that the Israeli lobby got shut down. So they never released it. And Electronic Intifada was given a copy and they released it.
The dude was undercover. Like
Wow.
part of it is that it's a lot of footage of somebody who was undercover working on behalf of Al Jazeera, but posing as someone working for the Israeli lobbying community. And there's a lot of footage of them speaking very candidly when they think that they're not being recorded or that they're talking to a friendly person. And to Renee's point, it's incredibly revealing. And in part, what they're doing is trying to target even efforts like yours, that by discrediting candidates, they say very candidly, target the messenger, not the message. And then they try to discourage by doxing people and, pro-Palestinian activists and whatever radical effort that might threaten Israel's position in the world. They target those individuals and not only bribe Congress people, but they pay off young people who are seen, unfortunately, a young black man on camera saying, yes, I was bought off. $50,000 in healthcare got me to do this work. And, when we hear $50,000 in healthcare, that's barely scraping by. But to a young person on his way up, fresh out of college or in college on his way up, and this is his first starting point, that sounds pretty damn good. But they're explicitly saying we're doing all of this to create narratives that will shut down political campaigns, news reports, and just obviously public opinion that might shift away from Israel, which is almost guaranteed once people really are clear about what the hell is actually going on over there. So anyway, yeah. So I didn't mean to. Please continue responding to Renee's question, but that's. Yeah, it was worth Israel trying to shut down, and it's worth us going and watching it.
Yeah, for sure. I think we should make all of that available. As Cabal says, tell no lies and mask no difficulties, right? Like make everything out in the open. Let people see and determine for themselves what type of society they want to live in. But I think to your question about like what makes me different from any other politician that is operating within the shark infested waters, right? You have to either hire a shark or become a shark, right? I think part of what separates me is that I approach this run not as an individual. Like I don't have some form of narcissistic urge to have my name all over the place and to see my picture all over the place. Like I would have been perfectly happy just being a high school teacher, but I am a member of a political party that has the expressed intention and goal of transforming a socialist transformation of the society, and that structure enables me to foreground a lot of these trappings or the pitfalls that an independent candidate or somebody trying to work under or within the confines of either the Democrat or Republican Party, they're subject to these same forces, and there is not a mechanism internally to hold them accountable for what they do or what they don't do. Because, yeah, you're my constituent, but like you don't pay me, yet I don't have any real allegiance to you other than what I say. Like I can take $1 million. I can tell you I'm going to vote for you and take $1 million. It doesn't affect me because the people that I work for, the people that I'm accountable to, are more important to me than you. And I don't approach this as somebody who is on a personal mission to try and see myself. I don't want to have I don't have any desires, any ego to try and live up to. I'm accountable to the principles that are set forth in my party. That we're doing everything within our power, within our capacity, to put political power into the hands of the working class people so that they can be the drivers and the shapers of society that they contribute all of the wealth to. So my advantage over anybody that's running outside of a structure as similar to mine, which is a Marxist-Leninist organization, a political party that is independent and socialist. My advantage is that it's Claudia de la Cruz that's gonna chew me out if I if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, right? Like you are all familiar with who my comrades are, who I am accountable to, who shape and mold my positions, and you are seeing all of the work that has been put together for the campaign thus far, and will only continue to grow from there. So the greatest aspect that I have, the greatest insulator that I have against the sort of corruptive forces that are very powerful, is that I am not an individual. I'm not coming into it with my own individual salvation at stake, right? Like Richie Torres started as somebody that lived in public housing, and he very much was like that young person that was getting the $50,000 and healthcare. Like that is world changing. I came out of college, and my first job I was making like $35,000, and when I tell you I was rich, you understand? I was eating out
Listen,
regularly.
say
I
it,
was going.
say
I
it.
was okay. I was up in the grill over in Manhattan. I was like, you know what? You could have a drink. You could have. I was living life with $35,000. I had no expenses, right? So imagine what $50,000 does to a young person. What the healthcare benefit does to a young person.
I was going to say with that health care.
Okay. Once you leave your parents' healthcare, and you realize that you got to pay out of pocket for healthcare, which again, the system of capitalism is predatory, and it atomizes the working class into individual units that are easier to dissolve and absorb into the broader capitalist machine. And as long as you exist as an individual unit, you are more susceptible to the forces of bribery, to the forces of corruption that enable the system to exist and continue. It's not an accident that, again, a queer Latino person living in the projects gets. Imagine what it must have been like the first time Richie Torres got into one of those meetings, and it was like, yo, you want some caviar? And he's like, yeah, I love caviar. And because it never starts out with an envelope with $40,000 in it, right? It's always something small. It's always a cigar, or I'll buy you a single malt scotch. You know what I mean? Like it's a small thing. And then over time, it accumulates to a point that you can't go back to your regular life. He can't go back and live in the products that he grew up in, because the lifestyle that he's been accustomed to has changed the way that he expects himself to live in the world. So to go from that is worse than death, right? So we have to understand the forces that create the corrupt individuals that we hate. If we don't understand that, then we won't see how even we may be susceptible to those same forces, because there's a narrative that suggests that there's good people and bad people. And I think that it's harder to be a good person in a system that incentivizes, in as a part of its structured and stated practice, that incentivizes making decisions that support the existing ruling system. So how can you remain good when being good means that you have to sign off? Like, in order for me to be able to bring a rec center into my neighborhood, I gotta schmooze up with the Zionists that are, committing all types of atrocity that I'm fighting against. So you end up being like an AOC. And as much as we want to criticize AOC, and we should, we have to understand that there are limitations of individual people engaging in the most sophisticated, the most well-funded political apparatus in the world, right? The white supremacist, capitalist, imperialist system that exists inside the United States is the most sophisticated, the most advanced, the most powerful that the world has ever seen. So to expect as an individual to walk into that with your good intentions and walk out as a proud person, you better walk out the same day. Walk in the revolving door and walk right out. That's the only way you're able to maintain your integrity, because you either compromise on your ideals and you stay and have a long career where you get small wins every now and then that are overshadowed by devastating losses and betrayals to your community, or you go in there and you fight like hell and you die politically, and then you go back to your community and you keep organizing. Like people like Charles Barron are great examples of how the electoral system can be engaged, but it can only be done successfully if there is a accountability measure for the individuals that are in the office that exists independent and separate from the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, because eventually you got to get down with the get down, or they're going to push you to the side. And, we've seen it happen time and time again. So yeah, my best asset is that I'm not an individual. I come as a representative of a working class party with over 2 decades of experience organizing and struggling in the United States. And we're leaning on tradition that exists way beyond that. Like, we're learning from, structures that exist that are revolutionary processes that are in progress right now. I think China has a really good remedy to this problem of entrenched power that comes when somebody exists in a position of power for a long time, right? They rotate their elected officials, right? So you serve in a district for 4 years, for 5 years, and then whether you did good or not, right? Whether you're making progress or not, they will remove you and rotate you to another district to continue that work based on the experience that you got working in that district that you're in, and bring somebody new in. So it's impossible for people to build that type of those type of familiar relationships that lend themselves to corruption, where people start doing you favors because they feel positively towards you, and over time that accumulates into completely shifting the focus of what you're supposed to do, which is complete the job that you were hired to do. So I think there are mechanisms that you could use to address this type of entrenched corruption, but the foundation has to be a people-centered movement. Like, China couldn't do that if they didn't have the Communist Party that is ordering and guiding the resources of their country, right? With a socialist reorganization of the society, then the people could actually have the ability to truly hold the elected officials accountable, and not the lobbyists that are able to drop those types of envelopes and to get their kids into the private schools that are exclusive, and the waiting list is a mile long, right? Those are the types of things that prevent good people from being able to exist in a system that is meant to serve all of us.
You are not wrong. It's so crazy, like, because I recognize this, right? Like, there's a part of me that understands that when we'll give the example of Cori Bush, who I still look. I don't live in her district, and I definitely saw some things that she did, but she held the line on a few things that I found to be respectable. Now she's decided to run again, right? Which I'm interested to see, like, how this is all, like, what went into that decision, right? And there's a part of me that recognizes, look, like she was living in her car, right? And so she experienced a lot before she got that seat. And when you get that seat, and you are not only pressured by the things that you've always like, oh my God, now I have like healthcare and I have a regular like paycheck and people want to talk to me. Like she was able to write a book, right? Like all these things, they're very, very enticing. Like I don't want to pretend like this is crazy. Like it's crazy that people get down there and they just change them. Like, of course they do, right? Like Jared talks all the time about like how much does a check need to be for me to sell all y'all asses out, right?
It's not that big. I promise you. It don't take a lot. It don't take a lot.
That much more, and I'm out.
Right? So it's
the right strain, right? You know what I'm saying? It might hit you with the right strain. You're like, wait a second, hold up. How much you could give me? All right, wait a second. We can talk about some things.
So, so I don't wanna pretend like, like it's crazy. And then on top of that, I do think that there is a level of dirty shit that happens when you get there, right? That we just have no clue about. Like we literally just have no understanding of what happens when you get into your office for the first time and you encounter the first really shady, shitty person who can fuck your life up.
Yep.
Right? Like I don't want to pretend like that's because I can't imagine that that's non-existent, right? Like if you take the time to watch that documentary, and listen, it's a 4-hour adventure, right? But I highly recommend it. And there was a dude who they just decided they were going to start making these fake websites about him sexually harassing his students.
Wow.
Right? Like there's some wild stuff that
and then they sat there and said, we're doing this for no other reason, but as they said explicitly, quote, to create because as they said, psychological warfare is effective. They said we're engaged in psychological warfare, and we're doing this as was done historically to more radical efforts and movements. If we harass people, lock people up, if we have them spending, and they talked about this openly because they didn't realize they were being recorded. That if we tie them up, having to defend themselves, buy lawyers, exhaust energy, it stops them from being able to be effectively organizing against Israel. So they're on some level, it's not even somewhat as I understand what you both are saying. It's not only that we shouldn't think it impossible or out of this world. We should think of it more as something that is more likely to be happening to more of us than more of us even realize. Because if you start with what they're doing at this most overt, aggressive level of psychological warfare, and you just sort of tune it down a little bit, the rest of us are getting versions of this, whether, for instance, just as a quick example, one way I think this works, that is like the most overt level. Like what the lobbyist documentary is showing is they're setting up fake websites. They're doxing people. They're saying you're abusing your student. They're doing all kinds of wild stuff. But if just before we joined this studio, I was watching one of the many sort of liberal outlets that I look at for just regular news about whatever.
God bless you.
Well, it's not like well, I feel like it's an advance because it's no longer CNN or MSNBC or MS Now or whatever the hell it is. But YouTube has replicated a lot of those kinds of outlets. So there are, what I consider to be decent outlets just to give me not the analysis. Shout out to who you are, my email. Sending me emails about some of the people I reference. I'm not getting my analysis from them. They're not my heroes. I'm just watching for some news. All right. But what you see happening, especially after this invasion of Venezuela, it's very clear, or it's more clear than even normal, where their liberal limits are. So they'll start off by saying, well, we know
He's
Maduro.
He's a bad guy. He's a dick. He's an asshole, or whatever the phrase they choose.
But what Trump is doing is illegal. And it's like, but part of what they're doing, but what I'm hearing is it's not just that they're following the normal liberal line. What they're really doing is responding to the unspoken, scaled down propaganda against socialism, communism, decolonization, et cetera, and so forth. So they can only interpret that as dictator, anti-democratic, whatever. And then I'll stop here by saying, in this great salute, you mentioned Laura Shihai in her new Psychic Militancy YouTube show. She did an interview with Alex Avina and Gio Mahar. I've always mispronounced his name. Brilliant decolonial thinker out of Philadelphia. Folks don't know. Ciccarello Mahar. I've always messed up his name, so forgive me. But Alex Avina made this really important point that I thought that in tracing the history back to Louis Tams in the 80s of rebranding the approach to Latin America to get the narrative away from anti-communism and into narco-trafficking and narco-terrorism, because the anti-communist message in Latin America didn't have the narrative effect and it didn't have the narrative effect in the United States of encouraging more invasion of Latin America. But when you start talking about narco this, drugs that, sprinkle some terrorism in there, and all of a sudden you have a whole new thing. And then sure enough, what are they saying? Even to the detriment of their own case against Maduro, they keep talking about, we started off with the narrative of it's a drug thing, and then they keep messing up by telling the truth about the oil and everything else. And it might actually end up messing up their federal case, oddly enough. But
exactly.
But anyway, but my point though is that the narrative had to shift. Not the goal, they were like, we called it communism in the 70s and 80s. Now we'll just call it narco terrorism and drugs in the 90s and 2000s, and we'll do the same thing. So,
but isn't it just like how, the right wing in this country, when they realized they could no longer target Black people on the basis of race, they shifted to like talking about like what was it, like abortion, right? Like they took that narrative shift because they said it was out of style to openly attack Black people on the basis of their race. So now we're going to use these
welfare queen,
all of these new placeholders to accomplish the same thing. I'm currently with my wife right now in the 10 minutes that we actually have to ourselves after we bathe and feed and get the kids ready for bed. We're watching the documentary The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. It's a documentary about Venezuela, and everything you just said, Jared, is prominent in that documentary, and it takes place under Hugo Chavez's his tenure, and it's a really beautiful documentary because it reveals the way that narrative warfare is the primary edge of the propaganda machine of the U.S. military. It is primarily a narrative based warfare, that psychological warfare. So the guns and the weapons are secondary, because before the guns ever come out, they first have to attack your brain and your consciousness and your ability to perceive accurately what is happening to you in real time. If you cannot understand and make sense of what's happening to you in real time, then how do you properly put forth a response to the thing that you don't fully understand? So they have to use these narratives. And even they talk about, like, there was an incident where there was there were pro Chavez supporters. There were Chavez supporters, and then there were an incident where the opposition forces were marching onto the place where the Chavez supporters were congregating, and then some shots started firing. Snipers from up in the buildings nearby were shooting down at the people in the crowd, hitting both sides, right? And then some of the Chavistas were firing back, trying to get the snipers, but the media framed the images in such a way that it only showed the Chavistas shooting their guns, and then they showed the bodies. So then they're saying, well, this is an act of terrorism, this mass murder, and just using that narrative. And when after this event happened, the private media cut the access to all of the public radio stations and all the public news stations. So the only way that people could learn about what was happening, including Chavez and his people, were by watching the privately owned, capitalist-owned media, which was repeating and popularizing this narrative that was framing a situation that they were experiencing in a way that was contrary to what was actually happening. So I'm like, this is what they were doing in the 90s. Right? Like now, this is before they had algorithms. This is before they had, supercomputers in everybody's pocket. This is before they had cameras on every corner, right? So like the ability for the ruling class to manipulate the narratives about what is and isn't happening is the most effective weapon. That's the most effective tool in the U.S. military. They again, the reason why the U.S. military had to go in and engage Chavez in the way that they did was because the other approaches were not effective, right? They tried with the Nobel Peace Prize with Marina Machado. I'm not going to make any comments on her appearance, but anyway, they could not win that battle by fomenting this false astroturf support of the opposition party. So they had to go with the military route. They had to use the guns because the propaganda was not penetrating sufficiently to accomplish the goals of regime change that both Democrats and Republicans had in mind. So Trump was like, "Yo, screw it. We got to go with the big stick, right? We can't do what we want to do because the people love Chavez, they love Maduro too much for us to effectively use those types of strategies." But yeah, exactly what you're saying. It's so important that we're able to communicate to people just the ways that we are all victims of this narrative warfare, this psychological warfare, that it kills an idea in our brain before we even get to consider it fully, to really wrestle with it. And that's why we're constantly hit with this, high rate of speed. There's new stories, like there's so many things that are happening that we get bombarded with on a daily basis. Our brains can't process it, and they know that.
Let me. I found this. This was sent. We were given this in grad school as something to quickly demonstrate how how media are framed, particularly at the time on television. And you can kind of see the point that you're making in terms of the example you were just giving, who's shooting who and what's happening here. And in this example, if folks can just, you can see that the person who's actually being chased is depicted as the aggressor on the television. So it's speaking of how old this has been going on, this is, yeah.
And not to take up too much time on the mic, but you saw that happen with this incident with Renee Nicole Good, right? Where immediately Trump comes out and starts to spin this narrative that the woman driving the car ran over the ICE agent, right? He's lucky to be alive. She dragged him. She tried to kill him. And then the video that anybody with a functioning,
it's so obvious.
You get what I'm saying? But again, that narrative, it is very important for them to foreground that narrative, to salt the pot, to tilt the scales in their ideological favor to justify the next type of response that they already have queued up, which is, more repression, more funding, more lockdowns, more National Guard deployments. These are the types of things. And again, it's super important for us to remain committed to activating our humanity. We have to be committed to not only our own humanity, but the humanity of our neighbors. And remember that we are people first, and that humanity does exist inside of each of us. And that has to be the leading force that pulls us together. We have to see that we are not the people that the ruling class tells us that we are. We are the people that we decide that we are. And I think that that's a really, really powerful idea that we want to push forth with this campaign, right? The people of the Bronx have so much narratives that are imposed upon them. We should be the ones that get to say who we are. We should be the ones that get to write our story and determine what our future and what our limited time on this earth is going to be like, as opposed to just, trying to adopt or fit into some sort of narrative that is completely a bastardization of what we represent.
You said that so beautifully, and I really appreciate that, because the one thing I'll say, despite how disturbing these 4 hours were watching this documentary, I'm sorry, it's fresh in my mind because I just binged it yesterday. So it's like freshly rotating around in my head. But, when I sent my response today, because we've now, of course, got this whole email thread about prepping for the next show about it. The one thing that I really walked away understanding is so this whole thing was done in like 2018. So this is not a new documentary. One. So first you're like, wait a minute. This was like a decade ago they started this, right? And this has been, they're talking about Canary Mission and all these things, right? And what I walked away thinking is the fact that the fight for the freedom of the Palestinian people is still a thing, despite all of this stuff that they have been doing, is one of two things. It is either a miracle, right? If we're going to say we believe in miracles, or it is absolute evidence that the morality and the ability of the human spirit to focus on the thing that it needs to focus on despite all obstacles exists, right? Like the ability for us as human beings to recognize the importance of humanity in all people, regardless of what that brings to you, right? That exists and it lives on and it thrives. Because the fact that we still have people who are like, no, we're not siding with this madness, despite all the things that they have worked to do over the past, we'll say 20 years, right? It could be longer. We'll say 20 years. It is amazing, right? And when you watch those people, like I'm going to have to rewatch it because I'm curious about like some of the people where they're at now, like, you know, like how are things, like what are they still doing? You know, and then I also am watching Laura's new website and new channel, and she interviewed Amy, I think her last name is Greer, and I'm sorry if that's the wrong last name, but that's Mahmoud Khalil's attorney. And she speaks about his humanity and her humanity and this ongoing battle, right? And I've been following how the federal government has been trying to work within the educational system to really compile on teachers and students and all these things, right? And I was shockingly excited to learn that UCLA is just letting their teachers sue the federal government and waiting to see what happens, right? Like they haven't capitulated. Now they could still, but they haven't yet. And one of the reasons they haven't is because their teachers have been winning the fights to say you can't hold. Now, look, I ain't no proponent of taking these research grants, but you know, listen, if it means that an entire university system is not going to capitulate to a federal government in the way that they want them to, like I'll take that little win, right? And so your recognition of the importance of the human ability to be the thing that it desires to be and to not be the thing that it's told that it is. That is like, that's like, I literally said it to my mother today. It's either a miracle or it's evidence. And maybe the miracle is that the evidence exists. I don't know. Right. But yeah, that, like, I walked away thinking like, and people are still doing the thing. And that says a lot.
I want to piggyback off on that point, or to borrow Geechee, I want a veggie back, or tofu back, or soy back. I don't know. I'm gonna find a better way to say that. But I would like to add on to that point. There was something that I listened to recently on your channel. It might have been Jared. You were having a conversation with somebody that was talking about the limitations of organizing under the identity or the term Black, right? And I think that we should really reevaluate what it means to be Black, because I think that Blackness, as Steve Biko defined it, was synonymous with resistance. And when I listened to you, Renee, talking about the steadfastness of the Palestinian people, it cannot be argued that Palestinian is now also synonymous with resistance, right? Their unyielding desire to exist on their own terms, on their own land, and retain their culture and their history and their memories and their stories. is something that anybody with a beating heart should admire. And I know that as another person who is a member of a group that is under the weight of genocide, that ability to self-identify as a thing is so crucial. But I think, unfortunately, in the way that Blackness has been so integrated is that it has. I know people say Blackness is not a monolith. Obviously, it's not. But the very existence of Black as an idea came as a result of oppressive forces. And we reclaimed that as a part of our selfhood. And I think that in the current moments, anything gets to be just thrown black on it. It just becomes like a flavor adder. And it's like MSG in a sense, right? Like it doesn't really on its own signify anything, right? You could say you're black, but that you could be a black capitalist, you could be a black reactionary, you could be a black conservative, you could be a black anything. But like at a certain point in our experience, black was synonymous with resistance. We had black power, we had black is beautiful. There were so many positive attributes that we created that we reclaimed and it's attached to blackness, that I think that there's a need for us to really sit down and define what it means to be black, right? I think was it H. Rap Brown that said, to be black is great, but it's not sufficient.
It's beautiful, but it's insufficient. Yep.
I think we need to really dig down and like really unpack what he meant by that, and like how does that show up in our current space where black people are experiencing arguably some of the worst forms of oppression that we have in the last decade or so, and there is not a unifying direction for how we want to respond to that. And I think that some of the ways that our identity has been co-opted and be, watered down in so many ways, it enables this sort of disunity and this sort of, aimlessness, where you have people testifying on behalf of turning point conferences that are being presented as black people, being presented as black thought leaders. You have Candace Owens coming and telling black people that they should not be mad at white people because of slavery. They should look at, I don't even want to say it because I don't want to get dinged, but there's a lot of anti-Semitic things that are being attached to blackness and this black identity, that I think that we really need to have a moment to sit and talk about what we mean when we say black. Because I'm talking Steve Biko black, I'm talking revolutionary black, I'm talking Claudia Jones black when I'm saying black, right? It's there has to be a space for us to reclaim our identity as revolutionaries in the ways that Palestinian people are able to identify themselves as people that have an obligation to resist the forces of imperialism, of colonialism, of racism, of capitalism, etc. Like we have to get to a point where we can reclaim the pieces of our radical legacy and let that be how we define ourselves, and not just use the color black as our name and our sole identity, because the Democrats have misused that, and the ruling class has misused that, has weaponized that in the worst possible ways. And I think that if we aren't clear about what we mean when we say black, then it's very easy for people to get confused. Just in the same way, when I say I'm a socialist, I have to tell you. And when I tell you that I'm a socialist, I'm going to use black people as my reference points, because I want you to understand that this is not, I don't just sit around and read Marx all day. Like I'm a black person as a product of a historical tradition that is moving towards justice. And socialism is a part of that tradition, an integral part of that tradition in moving towards justice.
Can I just share this? I know we're about to close here, but you were I loved everything you just said there. And in fact,
now listen, that's called my boy. You know nothing about that.
Let's just make it official. In this, I just was reading from a book that came out a couple of years ago, is going down. I'm Renee is very inspiring. I'm trying to go down my own rabbit holes in a way that is approaches her standard. But in this book that came out a couple of years ago, Marxism and Decolonization in the 21st Century, Living Theories and True Ideas, Ramon Gross-Fugel, who I happened to cross paths with a couple of years ago, wrote in this foreword in trying to delineate a point that I think you're raising here. He writes, in sum, what defines a Black Marxist is not the skin color of the author, but the modified Marxist decolonial theories that are born of the critical thought that is produced to understand the articulation of class exploitation and racial domination due to the urgency to confront the lived experience of oppression of Black bodies in a white Western capitalist world. So it's a sort of a twist on what you were saying, but the point being that there needs to be some clarity around how we are identifying racially, and what is it supposed to mean beyond just a descriptive label of some sorts.
Vibes.
And politics. I mean, that's the point. I mean, you're delineating some clarity around the politics. Candace Owens is an easy one to call out. But there are levels, and there's a lot of degrees to this, and unfortunately between Candace and where we are is an array of Black politics that can all unfortunately be misdefined in that way. But yeah, so I really appreciate your effort here and your approach, and look forward to not only Saturday or later today, but to your victory party and beyond. You know what I'm saying?
I know. Hopefully that happens when I'm in town, because I'm not only missing the launch, like I'm missing folks that I don't get to be around too often being in town. And so now I'm gonna miss all of it. So I have to figure this out.
So now you have to win and have another party so Renee can be there.
And Geechee got to pull up too, right?
There we go.
Just to honor the original formation.
There we go.
The most traveling African in the world.
Bruh, he be
Geechee.
everywhere.
So he needs to show up and stuff like this for sure. It needs to be.
I can't wait to read his autobiography. Like,
you know what I'm saying? Oh, hell yeah. If Che had the motorcycle diaries, Geechee got the airplane diaries. You know what I'm saying?
He's still the GOAT when it comes to name dropping, though. Like he's untouchable.
Listen, you know what though? Quiet is kept. Entombed might be worse.
Ooh,
Entombed, because he was
the Khalees story, right?
He got that little Hollywood shit happening. You know what I'm saying?
And he went to school with everybody. Everything you say a name, he'd be like, "Oh, I went to high school with them. Oh, I went to college with them." It cracks me up.
Right. I showed Tupac how to, I helped him work on his jump shot.
Right. Right. Me and Nas was hanging out, and I gave him his first blunt.
And the crazy thing is, it'd be plausible too, because you'd be like, you know what, Tupac was in the Bronx with Matulu for a minute, so maybe he might like I'm gonna read it. I might download it on Audible because the way. So listen, I've modified my question. So interview question that I often get is if you your favorite superpower, right? And I used to pick invisibility or like super speed, but like honestly, in a real sense, like if I could choose a power, I would have a fully functioning brain. Like I want to actually have the full use of my brain to be able to read and remember things and to connect. Like I want to have a fully functioning brain. Let me have that, and I can keep the rest of the powers. I'll be straight with that.
That's dope. So real quick with these last few minutes, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, but I'm just curious about you as a New Yorker living in the belly of the beast, as all these things are happening in New York at the same time, right? And so, you've got Mangione's trial going. Now you've got kidnapped presidents on trial. You got, there's the executive orders that went out today seem to read as if they're going to have to stop solitary confinement. Maybe they're actually going to shut down Rikers based on this, if I'm reading the emergency order correctly. So there's a lot kind of like happening in New York right now. Is there anything that you want to like as a New Yorker, how is this all playing out for you as these things are happening?
Yeah, I think there's advantages and disadvantages to living inside of the heart of world capitalism, in the sense that there's a heightened visibility, like where I can go out and talk to people that live in other states that know about things that are happening in my neighborhood that I didn't even know, right? Because there's so much surveillance and scrutiny and just hyper focus on what happens here. So in many ways, we are living in the space that people are watching and studying more so than we are, because we're engaging in our daily activities, working to pay bills and trying to sustain ourselves. So in a lot of ways, we don't really feel it. Like I remember even like during 9/11, like it was from the outside, I'm sure it must have looked crazy, and it was crazy from the inside, but so many things happen on a regular day in New York City. Just riding the train, you have 15 different stories, right? So in New York, you kind of get accustomed to just a series of events taking place on a regular basis, and then the next day a whole nother host of random, you would not believe it if you were not there, events happen. That's why New York has had the best stories, right? Because like you might have been teaching Tupac, like that's probably true. You know what I mean? And that's a regular experience, living inside of this the shadow of the empire. But I do think that we are able to take some of that visibility and use it for positive ends, right? To take these ideas and these concepts and to put them into the hands of the people. I think that video where I was talking to Rosa's Resources is the name, so shout out to her. I hope we could tag her page. The woman that I was speaking to about Fred Hampton and socialism. We have those types of conversations on a regular basis, and because we exist in this space, those types of conversations that are normal interactions with us are amplified, possibly disproportionately than if those same exact interactions were to happen in a different part of the world. So I think we're doing our best within the capacity that we have to use the hyper focus and the hyper visibility that we have as a New York based explicitly independent socialist campaign to heighten these contradictions that people are given false explanations for, and to provide them with tangible, real solutions that are possible under socialism, right? So we talk about the culture for the Culture for the People Fund and the cultural justice tax, things like that that are feasible if we actually had the political power in our hands. And there's a million other ideas that exist within the working class in New York City, which spans the entire globe, and the history and experiences that we all have. I think being able to have these types of opportunities to meet and to really brainstorm all and put together all of our creative forces, I think we're in the best position to actually build the movement that the working people deserve, largely due to the disproportionate visibility and attention and focus that this particular district gets. Whenever I tell people I'm running against Richie Torres, like they don't even know most Congress people, right? Like the average American maybe knows a handful of Congress people, and Richie Torres is one of them. So just that level of visibility, I think it makes it necessary that we are engaging in the most principled way, in the most strategic way to advance the goals of the broader working class for self-governance and self-determination. Also, so we're in a space that I think I'm glad to be, and I'm proud to be, in the Bronx doing this type of work, because it's hard for me to think of a people that are more deserving, and have been more deserving for a really, really long time than the people that live in this district, and then the city more broadly.
Listen, listen. This is why you had to come back, and this is why you'll have to come back again, and we'll figure something out. As I harass Jared consistently about doing 8,000 things. Poor Jared gets more emails from me. Like the channel thinks I'm out of control with my emails. They have no idea. They get like a tenth of the emails from me that Jared gets from me. I'm always bothering Jared about stuff. But I really am committed to this idea of how do we get the most information to the most people that we can possibly get it to about how we can actually perpetuate and push for change, right? Push for power, push for knowledge, push against, this system that is just constantly barraging you with nonsense and all the things that makes you think that you have to just focus on making sure you catch the next rung on your wheel that you're spinning on, right? Like I'm adamant about it, and I can't even, I really, I mean it when I say, I hope you win, right? Like I hope you win. And I'm going to find a way out. I got to get out to the Bronx and bring my husband with me so that we can come hang out with you and do some stuff. But I'm so excited for everything that you're doing. I'm so excited to be in community with you and to know you. And I can't think of a better way to spend 2 hours before folks get to go see you in person. Like this is.
Yes. Yeah. And can I just give some flowers to Samantha Youssef? I cannot explain how many times my brain exploded listening to that talk that you had, the Palestine and Superman. The Disneyland concept. She got to patent that, like that framework of understanding colonialism. The first thing I did was send it to my Canadian cousins. I was like, "Ooh, look, she talking about y'all. She talking about y'all." But that's such a really useful concept that I hope more people get access to, because Disneyland perfectly encapsulates the way colonialism imposes this fantasy world on a real place with real people that are struggling but living in the fantasy of someone else's dream, with a timeline that is separate and detached from the rest of the world. Like there's so many layers. Like I felt like I was in grad school again, listening to her speak in that one.
And shout out to Samantha. She graduates this weekend, so she's during the week she'll be traveling to go to her graduation. So shout out and congrats. That's my new sister. I love her to pieces, man. She's the best. And we're gonna bring her back. She's gonna come on with Lara. These two, nobody's gonna be able to get away from me, because we gotta talk about Canada. We didn't even we like scratched the surface.
Exactly.
Of all the stuff we were supposed to talk about. And so, we're going to do that at the end of the month. So that'll be something else for folks to look forward to. We've already got it scheduled. But sincerely, I thank you, Andre, for the time. I hope everything goes smashingly in the future, 2 days from now, but later today, depending on, what we're talking about in the future. I couldn't be more happy than to be in community with you. I really couldn't.
Likewise, the feeling is mutual. We don't respect the Gregorian calendar anyway, so we just, you know what I mean? Whatever day it is, that's the day it is, man.
We don't need no white man to tell us what
white
day
man
and the time is. Get the hell.
White man paperwork.
You know what I'm saying? We're using Cerebro.
We gotta get Sam to like draw that. We gotta do
That's
that.
gonna be part of the buying power graphic novel.
Yeah, we gotta have to do that.
I'm
ready for the update. I'm ready for the next one.
Cerebro against black capitalism. Look, hey, Andre, kudos, all the salutations. Feelings are mutual. Renee, once again, another great show. I know we can predict the undefeated chat has been undefeated yet again. So salute to them.
Y'all.
And please check the show description, support Andre's campaign, and put this in your socials, and do whatever you can to expand the range of this conversation, and support the Patreon and do all of those things. And again, Andre, thank you very much. Renee, again, salute to you. And as always, peace, everybody. Only if you're willing to fight for it, as Fred Hampton used to say. And we'll catch you next week with more Saturday with Renee.
Black Liberation Media is a collective of Black and African organizers, journalists, academics, and media personalities serving Black and African masses seeking to further grow in their understanding of themselves, their histories, and the African world through entertainment and news. Please continue to like, subscribe, and donate to the channel so we can further serve you and liberate our people. You can also go to blkliberationmedia.org, get some merchandise, and also become a Patreon member and a member from the YouTube. Please do what you can, share, and show your love as we will show ours for you. Black Liberation Media.